It's the Score North Twin Show.
Little Trevor Plouffe Tuesday edition of the Score North Twin Show. We also see the Twins are on the grid, so I think we'll do that tomorrow. Twins on the grid this week. We got Coach Trev in the house, the sports dad, Judd Zulgad, dressing up with a collared shirt today.
Trying to look really sharp.
You know, Twins haven't lost in a week, so Judd puts on the collared shirt. And then our resident beat podcaster, Declan, in the clubhouse on a regular basis. I told Dex I had a Carlos Correa nugget to throw at Coach Trev, but I have a Royce Lewis nugget. We had this like wonderful Royce Lewis appreciation episode last week, and then he goes and does even more. So 2 fun Royce Lewis stats for you, Coach Trev. Only 5 games in which he has played in has he not hit a home run so far this year. And if you take his pace, #pace that he's playing at, and extrapolate it to 162 games, here's what Royce Lewis's statistics would be at this current pace. 94 home runs, 148 runs driven in, and 162 runs scored with a 1,400 OPS. Barry Bonds, move aside.
I like that. Sounds good. I feel like the RBI should probably be a little higher when you're hitting 94 home runs, but maybe that's something for the rest of the offense to focus on.
He's poaching too many solo homers late in games, maybe. Maybe we can criticize him for that.
Yes.
And then Carlos Correa, probably the hottest stretch of his career, too. He's got the season average up to 308, which would be, if the season ended today, it'd be his second highest batting average, his second highest on base percentage, and I think his third highest OPS plus the standard defense you see at shortstop. I mean, Declan brought it up the other day. Is this the best 1-2 punch since the Morneau era when you guys all played together back in the day? I mean, Nelson Cruz plus whoever was a nice run.
I mean, right now, the way they're going, yeah, I mean, it's up there for sure. I mean, obviously, there's spurts of certain guys together, but I think we need to see it more consistently, too. I mean, how many games has Royce played? 12?
Yes, 12 games so far.
That seems crazy to me. He's played 12 games. Yeah, we need to see it for a little bit longer, but it sure seems like, especially if Correa continues to do what he's doing, he made some good adjustments, and obviously he's reaping the benefits of that. I mean, this is exactly what the Twins have needed. I mean, some offensive firepower. And then, you know, as you start looking ahead to like the deadline, which is 6 weeks away, like what can you put with those guys? And then you start to think about, okay, like where are we at, you know, as an organization in 2024? There's potential here, guys. And I don't know if it's just because we're playing the Colorado Rockies and the Oakland A's.
Yep.
And getting
Yeah,
that
they're
medicine
like
right
they're
now.
0-14 against the teams they're
Slow your
actually
roll a
going to
little bit,
face in the
Coach Trev. You
postseason.
gotta slow that roll just a little bit, not
So,
too much.
I was just about to bring it down. You beat me to it because I'm looking at the schedule and results. I'm looking, okay, they're over 500 every single month, and you look up at an 0-6 against the Yankees, 0-5 against Cleveland, 0-3 against Baltimore. That's not great.
So
just avoid those teams though in October. And
Yeah, you're fine.
yeah, exactly right. We opt to play. Let's see here. We'll play the A's again, first round. Okay. So
A's and White Sox.
So Coach Trev, Correa in June, 14 games, 431, 453, 655, 4 home runs, 16 RBIs. He is on track for one of the greatest Junes in Twins history. But let me give you another great June. June of 2012, third baseman for the Twins. 327, 391, 735, 11 home runs, and 21 runs driven in 26 games. Trevor Plouffe, take a bow again, man.
Wow.
That was quite a month.
That 1 month got me my entire career, so that's
Hey,
I really
you know
like
what?
that month in June.
It was in the big leagues, man. Who cares? That's awesome.
No, I love it. No, he's been great, and Gleeman put out a great stat the other day. It was like he was hitting 247, and in 11 games, 12 games, he's at 308, third in the AL in batting average, and it could happen just like that, man. So, but I think for Carlos, like I mentioned, like he made some mechanical adjustments. Worked on some things. I didn't know that he had a 315 in the bag though. You got to go back to 2017 for that. So say what you will about all of that.
Yeah.
But no, Carlos, having him, I always said, even before he was doing this, having him on the field is so valuable to the Twins. What he brings defensively, what he brings in the clubhouse. But then you add this offensive streak and this, if he looks like this or even a semblance of this for the rest of the year, I mean, that is exactly what the doctor ordered.
Was your guy Talking Jake too was taking credit because ever since the handshake that took place at Yankee Stadium and then that explosion that happened with Carlos Correa, so your boy Jake taking a little bit of credit here. Our friend too, by the way. He's been on the show.
Yeah, your friend. So we always are kind of like tepid around like Astros because, we got a lot of views talking about the Astros, and our guy Jimmy John Boy put out that video that really kind of broke everything open. Now there was already an article written about it, like Ken Rosenthal and Elvin Drellich put the article out about the 2017 Astros. But then when Jimmy put the video out and put the audio and synced it up, and you could actually hear these bangs, it went crazy. So there's always this large section of Astros fans that like just hate us just because they think we did this. When in reality, the article was already out. So like a lot of the players in the team were always like, what are they going to react to us? Like, how are they going to react to us? And I think I get away with that because I know the guys and I played against them. And if they wanted to say anything, I could say, well, dude, I played against you twice that year. So, F off. But Jimmy and Jake are always a little scared. So when Carlos came over, I think Jake was like, oh, how's this going to work? And Carlos is a great guy. And it was an awesome interaction, but it did just so happen to coincide with a homer off of Stroman, which I think was really the thing that got him going. If you want to bring it back to Correa and what he's doing, I think that home run really got him going, using the opposite field like that, feeling hands inside the ball, letting it travel a little bit more because he was getting the front hip. I even mentioned on the broadcast before he started to go off, the front hip was going. So I'm happy for him, man.
Have you felt that? Did you have like an uncomfortable tension with him before he became a Twin and before you started doing stuff? I mean, working for Bally's. Did you guys ever have to have like an uncomfortable conversation or anything?
No, I don't think so because I was there. I played against him, so I didn't reap the benefits. I repped the other side of that. I played against them with the A's and the Rays that year, and if you go back, like they're in those games, like it definitely happened. So yeah. Look, I've said I'll stand by everything that I said about that situation. So I have no problem with it. But when you're in the media game, as you guys know, like there are times like Jace Tingler. I went off on Jace Tingler when he said, we talked about Tatis swinging 3-0. I was like, what are you talking about? And I already had like a bad taste in my mouth because I was with the Rangers in spring training. I thought they treated me unfairly. And Jace was like, I don't know what he was at the time. He was someone high up in the Rangers organization there. And so like I went off on Jace when all that Tatis stuff went down. Yeah. And then, I come in the fold and now Jace is here. And like, we never actually had a talk. I don't even know if he saw any of the stuff that I said about him. But now him and I have, we have a great relationship. I think it's all about putting yourself out there. Like I'm not afraid to go up and talk to anybody. If you got something to say to me, I want to be there. I think that's so important. And seeing Dex in there, like if he says anything, he's in the clubhouse and guys can come approach him. And I think it's important to do that. So I don't worry about any of that stuff.
And Orden, like they're not going to punch Dex. They just want to, you guys do respect when someone
mentally they might punch him. Mentally they might
stare him down. You never know about that.
Yeah.
I've told these guys the story, when I covered you guys from like 2010 through 12, 13. And Luke Hughes came up, and we had a great relationship. At least I thought we did. And I think we do. I don't know. He came up during spring training, and he was like, "Hey, what's the deal with your co-host on the radio, that Roos guy?" And I was like, Patrick Royce. He goes, "Well, he shouldn't be allowed in here. He's just ripping us in the newspaper. All he does is spew negativity." Is this pretty good Australian accent?
I think
I was going to say, you kind of got him down right there.
Yeah. He's got his like cut off jean shorts on and his little tight polo. And I said, well, here's the thing. If you come out and you hit like 285 with 27 home runs this year in the big leagues, he will write positive things about you, or like he'll stop ripping you as being a quad A player. You get to sort of dictate by the way you play. Now, sometimes guys like Jason Tatum found this out in Boston. He can be one of the 5 best players in the NBA, and people are still just trashing him for everything he says. But I said, yeah, he's going to be here longer than you, and you get to dictate what he writes if you perform well. Yeah, you got a good point. Okay, I guess you got a good point. But they just want to see you walk around the clubhouse, and if they want.
I think that's it. I think guys understand that, and I make it a point to tell the young players, like, if you're going to sit up here and boast your chest when you're going off and you want to be in front of the reporters, you better get your ass in front of your locker when things aren't going right and talk to somebody. That's really the only thing that fans want, media wants. But I think it works both ways. Like, if you're going to cover the team and kind of, I think you need to show up every once in a while. You need to give guys some face-to-face time. And I try to do that. So, like, that's what I'll do. I'll go to Dodger Stadium, and I'll just hang out at BP. I won't even go to the games. I'll go to BP. I'll stay for 2 innings and leave because I don't want to deal with the traffic. But I'll make myself available. Like, I've roasted – usually for me it's managers. I don't go in on players too often. I think maybe one day I'll get there. I try to be as positive as possible with players, but managers I'll roast. And so, like, the Cardinals came in town, and I've crushed Ollie Marmol many times on our show. And like, I went out there, and again, I don't know if he ever sees any of this stuff, but I went out there and I stood out there, and I'm waiting for him to say something to me. Like, I'm not like shying away from it, but I think it's just something that I feel like I want to do and have to do.
I think the smart ones don't consume a ton. Like, I don't think there's an upside. And plus, now there's so many podcasts and TV shows and, like, newspaper. When I covered the Vikings back in the day, the only thing that football players paid attention to essentially was national shows, ESPN in particular. Like, you could torch them in the paper. They didn't read it. So they didn't know. Like, you could write,
Judd,
this guy's an absolute bust, and they'd be like, oh, what's going on? But if you went on, like, any ESPN show and said, I don't know about this guy, they would hunt you down. So, like, that's the one thing. Trev, so it's weird because, like, right now, I think that there is genuine cause for optimism. The team's playing great. To your point, they're scoring a ton of runs. But what do you make of this team? Because this seems to be one of the weirdest years. Like, if it was, a bad start followed by a hot spurt and then that continued. But when we're talking about 0-14 against a collection of teams, but then they're beating up on teams, and they have beaten some good teams. What do you make of this team?
If I'm being completely honest, I think they're a fairly average team. When you're comparing them to, quote unquote, I don't know, I don't want to call them the big boys, but you're talking about, like, the Phillies, you're talking about the Yankees, you're talking about the Orioles. I think the depth is just a little bit different. Now, in saying that, there's a lot of really, really good pieces on this team. I think the bullpen can compete with anybody. I really do. I think there's, like, unsung heroes out there, like a Stallman and an Alcala. Like, they can really shine. Like, you give those guys the rock in the playoffs, like, those are the difference makers. I think offensively we got some weapons. I think starting pitching to me is, like, is it dominant? Like, not really. Like, I wouldn't say that we really have a dominant guy on the hill of true ace. You want to give Pablo that. You want to say Joe Ryan has flashes of that. But are you going to put that on them? I don't think so. So I think the pitching is, it can be good enough if the right guys get hot. I think offensively there needs to be some upgrades. And I think the roster, like, they could become a bona fide World Series contender if the right pieces are put into place. As it stands right now, like, I'm just objectively looking at rosters and comparing them. Could it happen because it's baseball? Sure. But you're not going to put them on the same level as the Yankees, as the Orioles. I mean, the Guardians have wiped the floor with them so far this year. I would actually probably put them on the same level as the Guardians. I just don't understand why that always happens. But I think there needs to be additions. If this is going to be a team that you're saying, okay, we're going to get to the playoffs, and now we actually want to, like, go deep into the playoffs, I think there needs to be additions. And they have the prospects and they have the player capital to do it. Like, are they going to pull the trigger? Like, it's kind of the big question, right?
Dex, do you want to throw out the?
Let's do it.
Is this
Speculation.
the Jim Bowden thing? I think it's a good time to do this.
This got a lot of attention naturally on our Twitter feed. But Jim Bowden of The Athletic, he put out, like, 5 trades he wants to see this year by the deadline. And he threw out Pete Alonso to the Twins for the cost of Alex Kirilloff, who just got sent down, but still a lot of upside there maybe. And 2 top 10 prospects. Luke Kershaw, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Kershaw.
Kershaw.
Right? Kershaw.
Keyshaw was the number 10 prospect who's having a hell of a year. And then David Festa, who has crazy strikeout numbers with the Saints. Probably will see him in a Twins uniform or a Major League uniform at some point this year for a rental in Pete Alonso. Would you pull the trigger on that, Trev? No.
I wouldn't. And the Twins aren't going to do that either.
No, I think the Mets would love this trade.
I think the Mets would love it too. I think I've heard them talk about Festa enough to know that like they're not going to do that trade. Now, I do think they could draw from that talent. You're talking about Alex Kirilloff, Matt Wallner, even like the Trevor Larnachs of the world, like guys that have years of control and have proven that they have the ability to do it at the major league level. Like those are very viable trade chips, even if their numbers are down this year. Teams, there's so many metrics out there. The data is out there. The statistics aren't always going to tell you everything. That's what they'll say. So they can bank on, and they love the years of control. So I think they can go out and get somebody to be an offensive upgrade. I think Pete Alonso is almost like too much of a name and probably will draw, too much from their prospect pool to come to Minnesota. So I wouldn't do that trade either because I think I want to see Festa. Number one, I've never even seen this guy pitch. I'm like notoriously not a prospect guy. Like I could care less about pretty much any prospect. But I know them talking about him. Like, and the pitcher is a little bit different for me. You get those guys, and if they're good and you're only paying them a league minimum, that just helps your roster out so much. So I don't think that'll work. I do think like a JD Martinez would be awesome. And that's like basically getting Pete Alonso, but that's Pete Alonso at home, even though JD Martinez has had a much better career than Pete Alonso. But at this point in his career, he's going to cost less. So an offensive upgrade has to come. Like you need to put somebody there. I just don't think it's going to be Pete. Not for that price.
Yeah. The other name you threw Vlad Jr. out like a month ago just for fun. The weird thing about him is, so his power numbers have dropped for 4 straight years.
Yeah.
What's your the name Vlad Jr. is one thing, but then you look at his peak in 2021 as a 22-year-old, and it's just been this kind of a decline since then.
I've talked about him quite a bit on some of my shows, and I think we unfairly will just crown guys. A young guy puts up that kind of season, it's hard not to. Yeah, but you mentioned like the rest of his seasons are all around 770 OPS, 780 OPS, and like that's a fine player at the major league level. But we're talking. We were anointing him future Hall of Famer, perennial MVP candidate. Now he's come on really well as of late. You mentioned the power numbers are down. Like he's been hitting the ball well. I don't know what the Blue Jays are going to do. There's so many teams in such a weird state that they're stuck in. Are we contenders or are we just here because of the extra wild card? I think that's been the biggest change in Major League Baseball. As we look in the National League, there's a bunch of crappy teams that are within a game of the wild card. So all these teams have to make this really tough decision whether stand pat, sell, or buy. I think there's like 5 teams that are clear sellers, and the rest of them are like, nah, I don't know what we're gonna do. The Twins could sell. Would it surprise you if the Twins sold off a little bit? Wouldn't surprise me at all.
With how PR has gone though this year for them.
Did they? I mean,
do they care about that?
Care too much about that?
Yeah.
I mean, what type of trade, Trevor? What are we talking about when you look at the current Twins roster and say, okay, average team, not with the big boys, not a terrible team. What raises the water table trade-wise potentially, as far as positions go, probably where you would say, okay, this takes them from an average team to, if they get to October, which they very well might, they can actually play with the Yankees, the O's, teams like that.
It's a corner bat. I think whether at first base or left field, like those are the 2 positions I think that could easily be upgraded. There's a lot of guys like that available. Names off the top of my head. I mean, Josh Bell, the Marlins are going to sell. Like, could he be a fit switch hitter? Santana's been playing so good lately too, so it's hard to talk about that right now. I guess it's just the bat. You want depth, like lineup depth. When you look at the teams at the top there, you just like the Orioles, man, it's relentless. Even when we play the Yankees, you see it. Like they might not have the power up and down the lineup, but those guys at the bottom lineup are putting it together like pretty good at bats. And the Twins like sneaky kind of have lineup depth. If you look, I believe right now without Royce Lewis, because he hasn't qualified, I think they have 7 guys with OPS pluses over 100, which is like pretty dang good. But I think like a power corner bat, and like so we like sort of have those guys. Like Wallner could be that, Kirilloff could be that, Larnach could be that. But do you want like maybe a right-handed or a tried and true guy coming to do that? I mean, that's kind of where I see them going. But I also can see them standing pat and just kind of riding this out.
You got to wonder too, do they look at how many chips do you want to take off future poker tables to help this year's game, so to speak? Or do you look and say, man, we have some loaded, especially some of these outfield bats we have in our system, that if we look at, let's do what we can this year, let's get in as a wild card team, maybe win a series again. And then next year through 2027, full year of Royce Lewis, et cetera. It's hard to know what they're thinking. Are they willing to do, I mean, maybe it's not for Pete Alonso, but are they willing to give up 2 top 10 prospects and a Kirilloff or a Wallner, or someone who's been in the big leagues for like a rental? I'm with Trevor. I think you'd have to have some team control attached if you're going to give up a couple of top 10 prospects.
I think you have to weigh like, okay, Jose Miranda is a 792 OPS guy right now. Now, are you banking on him to be that guy the rest of the season? Carlos Santana has really turned it on. Are you banking on him being your everyday first baseman for the rest of the season? Is he going to be that guy? You have to think about stuff like that, because you can't really let, a 2, 3, 4 week stretch kind of like affect your thought process.
Yeah, but if Santana's coming off the bench because you have a stud JD Martinez that you brought in, and now you're in October and you've got, this veteran bat coming in against a heat throwing reliever like that, now you have depth.
So, yeah, I think that's an interesting part of all of this, is because the Twins like to pinch hit so much. Like, and I don't think they've been particularly good at it. Okay, so I didn't know the numbers. Just eye test, not great, right? So I think that is somewhere you could look. Okay, who are some guys out there that can come off the bench and give you good at bats? Like it's not an easy thing to do. So you have to really be selective in the guys that you bring over. But I love my guy Farmer, and like there's a place for him in the big league somewhere. But I think the way he's being utilized right now, it's not good for him. So like depth pieces on the bench are another way they could go.
Yeah, it's tough. Hey, before
maybe some more speed and stuff. Like, there's just these championship teams start to nitpick and start to find little different ways to separate themselves.
Yep.
Before we get into a couple other things here, including Trevor pushing a new nickname for Target Field on the public, a shout out to our friends at the St. Paul Saints. So there's some good players. We mentioned Matt Wallner is red hot right now. There's a couple arms. Festa is just striking everybody out. There's some fun players to watch at the St. Paul Saints game, CHS Field. Every Thursday is Thirsty Thursday, featuring $2 beers, 2-for-1 seltzers. Sundays are family days at the park. Also, admission into the City of Baseball Museum is free during all St. Paul Saints games. So tickets and full schedule at saintsbaseball.com, saintsbaseball.com. And our friends at Red Cow are really good at making delicious food and pouring delicious adult beverages. 6 locations in the Twin Cities. There's 5 and then 1 in Rochester. In fact, later this week, we're going to be doing a Purple Over Beers episode for Purple Daily at the Uptown location at a day and time to be kept secret, so we can post it on the YouTube channel at some point. But you'll probably see us, if you happen to be there, pounding award-winning double barrel burgers and cheese curds and chips and dip and you name it, plus 36 beers on tap, local brews, craft cocktails, belly up at the bar where there's a line of TVs for sports viewing. Red Cow, 5 locations in the Twin Cities and 1 in Rochester. Dex, where do you want to go?
Yeah, let's go down this path of the lake here, Trev. So I noticed you mentioned this, that maybe we should call Target Field the lake, which is interesting. They got the pontoon now out there, which is one of their new additions above kind of the home run porch. Where do we go? How else do we market this as the lake?
See, that's the thing. Everyone's like, well, there's not even a water feature. Like, how can we call this thing the lake?
We got to work on that.
Add
Taxpayers. We need
we got to work on that. You know what I think? Right field, go old school Comiskey Park that Bill Veeck had showers. So on a hot day, you could pull the water.
Whoa.
And it would come down and refresh you. How about that for the lake?
Wow.
The lake.
I don't
effect.
mind that. Like a little dock leading out to there. Okay.
That's awesome.
I mean, we have a
idea. I
pontoon
love
out
this
there right
idea.
now, don't we? So
Yeah. We have a
Yes.
pontoon out
you
there.
know. Also, I feel like they've renovated right field about 100 times in 14
They
years.
have.
What if we just put a body of water out there and a
City
couple
Connect.
lifeguards?
Now is perfect for that.
Yeah.
I'm
So
so
that's
on
where
board with this.
they wrote that in the lineup tweet one day. Like, hey, we're wearing.
lake.
They keep saying drip all the time. Not too much drip, guys. Just relax, right?
marketing meeting.
So yeah, at the
whichever
lake, I
proof.
said, that makes a lot of sense to call it the lake. Like, and then I got a call from Dustin Morse, a PR extraordinaire, and he's like, "Well, I don't think Target would be too happy about that." And I said, "Well, they'd have to buy into it, dude. Like, they have to call it like Target, like Target's the lake."
Oh, so
or
because
Target.
we were so instead of calling it
We've already
Target
sold the-
Field,
not-
they'd be losing out
yeah.
on some name equity.
Dustin. No, Trevor's on to something. This is
I
a
am.
great idea. Now, first of all, they introduced this because of the City Connect jerseys.
Yes.
Like you
Yes.
wouldn't have mentioned this without that. So they went down this path, and it's still Target Field, but you could have lake days
At
and
the
so
lake.
on the City Connect days, right? You advocate for this. This is a great idea.
I think it's awesome. Look, teams need to understand that people want to be entertained, and it's not always about the product on the field. As much as it is about the product on the field, like going to a ball game should it's more than that, dude. And you want it to be more than that. That's how you're going to continue to draw people in, especially in Minnesota. They love the summertime. They want something to do. They want to be outside. So baseball has that part of the year locked down, right? Someone brought this up to me on Twitter. So what about the lake house? So I'm like kind of torn between the lake and the lake house. I think they're both pretty good. The lake's a little cleaner to me.
Yeah.
But here's my idea. So I want everyone to put this out there. Marlins Stadium, whatever it's called now, used to be a fun house. And I didn't really appreciate it at the time. I said, well, that thing is so ugly in left center field. Then they took it away. And the place looks stale. It looks like there's nothing there, right? So I miss that. Plus, if you guys remember what they had behind the plate, they had the aquarium. That's also gone now. I think we might need to bring the aquarium, put some pike in there, have it rolling around in the back like a freshwater aquarium. Like, think about that behind the plate. Like, this is what we need to dig into as an industry across the board. We got to get more creative with what we're bringing to the table because, we don't want to lose fans. We want to bring in more people. That's the point, right? Well, how do you do that? Well, you got to make it entertaining. So I'm in for it.
I'm just piggybacking here because I think, first of all, I vote for Trevor. If you want to run for commissioner, whatever, like vote for Trevor. The Astros used to have a hideous mound in play in their outfield when it was Enron Field back in the day, and there was like a flagpole, and didn't Lance Berkman stumble up there one time and make a great ridiculous catch like 20 years ago? Let's just put a body of water out in the just don't even have it blocked off by anything. Can you imagine? It's the ninth inning.
You're gonna dive into it.
Actually, pop up and you can show the ball.
Actually, what if you incorporated some type of thing like that just beyond the center field fence?
Yeah, like underneath the
where
bat.
that-
Where the
that
grassy
bed of grass
berm is. Yeah.
How about that? And ball splash at the lake.
That's amazing.
This
It's
is
amazing.
This is so
We're
good.
in.
I am so
People
with
could be
you.
fishing from that. Is it still called catch, or what are we calling the
it's
bar?
Oh yeah, that's great. Just dropping a line down there.
We're already calling it catch.
Hey, Buxton, watch out!
It's just, oh God!
Oh, no, I hooked the center field. I hooked Castro. This is
There's something there.
outstanding.
As much as we're having fun with it, because this, I mean,
Yes.
look at how much fun we're having just talking about it.
That's great.
If they incorporated some of that stuff, I mean, look, that's what Minnesota is about, man. Being out on the lake. Like every freaking person has a lake house, and if they don't, they know somebody.
Yeah, and all of it,
part of
Target. Okay, all of this conversation brought to you by Target, whatever
Yep.
Target Field, the lake
Go
house.
get your lake apparel. at
Buy
Target.
into it,
Yeah.
Target. Let's
Yep.
go.
Oh.
The merchandising alone is worth it. I told Dustin that. He was a little iffy on it because he thinks in that way, but
Well, if you want to
If
go
Target was
all in
in
on
for it.
Target, why don't we just do City Connect jerseys that are a bunch of red bullseyes all over the place?
You know what I thought of? I think what's next, throwback Little League alternatives where every team has a sponsor as their primary jersey. Because if you guys remember, like when you played, right?
Michelin Electric.
Babe Ruth, yep. Jordan Ford for me.
Ford.
I think that's the next thing.
Okay.
And a juice box. And everyone gets a juice box.
And they can sell those suckers, and they will sell like crazy. And you will appeal to, this is how it was when you were a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, so that already happens in soccer, the biggest sport in the world. That's what it is. You just have one massive logo on your jersey. So like the slippery slope has already been sloped, man. Like we're here. We put patches on. NBA's got them front and center. We got them on the sleeve. Eventually, it'll be that.
College football
at least something
is on the verge of renaming, like the Big 12 is going to be like, I don't even know what the sponsor is, but like the State Farm
Peanut Butter
Conference
Cup
or something.
Conference.
Yeah,
the Toyota Big 12.
Why do companies pay so much for stadium naming rights? Once it's named something, I feel like you just call it that. Like
that's the problem.
Does anybody call it American Family Field in
No, it's Miller Park.
If you're the first one in, think about that. San Francisco, I don't even know what is it. Monster. What do they call the San Francisco? To me, it's Pac Bell. Is Pac Bell even a company anymore?
I think I don't know. It's going to be Oracle.
Yeah,
Oracle.
It's Oracle now, but it's had like 5 names.
But it's Pac Bell. It's Pac Bell Stadium in my mind from 2001.
You have to be first. You're totally right about that. If you're not first, you're out.
100%.
Last.
You're just ignored. But your ideas are fantastic.
Thank you.
And tell Dave, St. Peter, and Dustin that you've got this.
Yeah, just tell them to back off a little bit.
Just hey guys, get the games back on TV. I'll worry about the marketing. Okay.
I can't
watch Trev. I can never watch you now. Sucks.
I know. We feel like we're talking out to the abyss when we're broadcasting. I saw Dave St. Peter, but that was before I had the idea, so I need to go back and talk to him.
I think
there's so much we can do with it. We're gonna
get on his calendar.
I don't know about the pond in play. Although I like the idea, I don't think we're gonna get.
I'll send you some. I'll send you some.
Oh my God, Kepler's drowning! Kepler's drowning! Someone throw him up the server.
How about this? We're going here. The bullpens. What do we need like in between home plate and the pitcher's mound? We don't need anything there. So you put a pond in between the pitcher's mound and home plate and the bullpen. So you're throwing
over a pond.
I love that.
We don't and it has a little dock, a walkway for the catcher to get to.
I think I saw someone posted, was it Marcus Stroman's off-season workout bullpen? On a dock. So the mound is on one end of the dock and then he's throwing to the other end of the dock.
We're here, guys.
That could also be a way to do it. The whole thing is a body of water and you're warming up on a dock, guys. And
it's sponsored by a boat company?
The warning track is a lake, and there's a boat that takes you to the. I mean, come on. There's endless ideas here. All right, there's Coach Trevor Plouffe Tuesdays here. For all your marketing needs, you can follow him on social media and find him on John Boy podcast. All right, dude. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Trev.
Yeah. See you guys.
Okay, let's go on our twin show.